I enjoy the conversation with you. You
Thank you
are a
very
very
much.
smart young man,
Thank you.
very articulate, know a lot of subject, and I really hope and wish that you become a very successful man,
Amin.
useful man in the near future.
Very much for attending my podcast. Rizal Ramli, a very great economist, one of my role models. So, thank you very much for attending my podcast, which is Don't Touch My Politics.
Yes.
And I have several economic related questions, as you also know that in my school I'm an economic student, and it's a very fascinating subject, which sometimes might be quite tough with many challenges in the exam questions. So first of all, let us focus on Indonesia. So what do you think is the current condition of Indonesia's economic situation, especially the government seems that they're struggling with the economic recovery during this pandemic.
First, even before the pandemic, Indonesian economy has been going relatively slow. It's just less than 5%. The potential should be higher, but unfortunately, the management of the economy is not exceptional. So you see a lot of weak indicators even before the crisis, before the pandemic. When the pandemic came, the government of Indonesia in uh, always said that it is not going to affect Indonesia, that we are more resistant toward COVID and etc. We spent more than 6 months trying to debate the importance of COVID.
I see.
And only because of this delay in response, the incapacity to close border with China uh, result in a major outbreak of COVID in Indonesia. And but then it's luckily because of the strong program of vaccination, the rate of COVID is slowing down until come the new variant, the Omicron. Uh, but the economy in general it's really how the way you look at it. If you just look at the macro standard or macro indicators, there are some improvement in the sense that some of Indonesian uh, export commodity benefit from more than doubling of the international price. Give you example, coal from about $60 per ton to more than $200 per ton, almost 3 times. Uh, CPO or palm oils more than double, and etc. So if you look at this, a few selected commodity sector, the economy start to recover. But unfortunately, for the average Indonesian, the purchasing power is still very low. The growth of credit uh, less than 5%. Usually when the economy growing 6%, at least the credit sector growth by about 15%. This is just less than 5%. Telling you that the purchasing power is very low and most of people have no jobs. Unemployment is increasing. So it's really where you stand. If you look at the big boys, they are doing very well. If you look at the average Indonesian, they are in the hard time.
Yeah,
And the government program is not yet effective to improve their well-being.
I see. And you have been one of the major players as to defend the people I see, and you've always I saw your social media providing constructive criticisms towards the government, which is really important in this such time. So when we talk about economic decisions, of course there are political pressures in the government. So what do you view today on the political pressures? How does it impact our economy?
This government campaign for the people, for the small people, it is supported by PDIP. They are supposed to be the party for the small people, but most of their policy benefit the big boys. So it is always a contradiction between what has been campaigned for and what is being implemented. They always campaign, for example, to increase domestic production, to rely on domestic food product, but unfortunately, they make it sure that most of the food commodity are imported and depress the price that the farmer receives.
I agree. And sadly, today our democracy is being, how do I say this? It's being harassed by these kinds of people that are supporting or have this huge fanatism towards the government. How do you think with this? How can we solve these problems of people, with huge fanatism in the government? They spread misinformation. The political identity is getting worse. How can we prevent that in the future generation?
Indonesia has gone through a very authoritarian systems of governance under President Suharto for 32 years.
Yes.
And after the fall of Suharto, during the government of Bibi and Gus Dur, we democratized the country. We let free expression, we guarantee free expression. We didn't detain political opposition and have a free press. But right after Habibie and Gus Dur, slowly, there's a slow return, a creeping decline toward a more authoritarian practice again. And unfortunately, this government is becoming more and more authoritarian uh, and doesn't respect the different in opinion, which is key to democracy. And you can show in the terms of index of democracy published by the economist that Indonesia has been backsliding democracy by quite a huge step. And but look, if the well-being of the people are better, they don't mind a little bit of authoritarianism.
Yes.
But when you cannot deliver basic things, simple things to the people, and you also combine that with authoritarian nature of the government, then you'll see there are more and more opposition to the existing government.
I agree. And it seems that freedom of speech, it's getting smaller in size, don't you think so?
Uh, I used to be, during the Suharto time, the advisors to the armed force, including at that time, the armed force have about 100 member of parliament. In practice, I was the advisors to most of Indonesian political party in the 90s. And the quality of parliament member at that time, they are more critical, they are more voice different review on the government policy. Because the rule is simple. You can criticize the minister, you can criticize policies, government policy, but you cannot criticize President Suharto or his family. So at least there a clear rule. It is why the parliament during Suharto time is much better in terms of quality, in terms of critical analysis than the existing member of parliament. The second, uh, the chairman of the party can fire member of parliament anytime at their own wishes. And this is scare most of the member of parliament. They just follow the line of the party leader. So even the member of parliament is 575, essentially 9 party bosses decide where to go, what to approve, and etc. And these 9 party bosses is essentially part of the oligarchy. They are entertained by the government in terms, most of them are businessmen. They are entertained in terms of credit extended by the state bank. They have privilege in terms of winning big project. Third, they have some legal immunity. Some of them doesn't pay taxes that they should be detained, jailed, but because they're political bosses, they can get away with this. So it is easy to control Indonesia. The existing government just co-opted the 9 political bosses. Yeah, and you know it very well, Dimas. In democracy, you should have trias politica. You have the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judicative branch. In Indonesia currently, all belong to the same club of the oligarchy. Yeah, like I used to say, they already form like a football team. You call it a united oligarchy, and that's why they rule the Indonesia just for their own vested interest. If we Indonesian would like to challenge this united oligarchy, people have to set up a new football team, the people united, then we can beat the oligarchy united. That is the political context in which we are in Indonesia today.
I agree. And I think you are one of those who are capable to change this. I saw that you're also thinking of running to be the next president.
Well, it's really depend on whether they can change the threshold.
Yeah, I
You know that every candidate have to get 20% support from political parties. And in order to get that support, essentially you have to pay political parties. For example, if you want to be a major, you have, in order to get 20% threshold, you have to pay bribe to political party of about 60 billion rupiah.
wow.
If you want to be governor, the total cost is between 100 to 300 billion. President might be more than 1 trillion. So this is what I call criminal democracy.
Yeah, that's,
Uh, this is not competitive democracy like we used to look at other more democratic system. So this is the basis of what I call criminal democracy. There's 2 results of the system. One is Indonesia never able to choose or elect top leaders, top quality leaders. It's always second-rate, third-rate leadership. While the challenge the country faces is much more complicated that can be faced by uh, second layers of quality of leadership. Second, out of 34 governor, 22 is jailed because of corruption. Uh, and 128 of major and bupatis ended in jail because of corruption. This is the result of the criminal democracy system. Yeah, if it is done 1 or 2 or 3 cases, you can say this is ocnum, this is just individual. But when 100 of them ended in jail, it tells you the story that the system is very corrupt.
I know. Yeah.